What is up, Hot Take Nation? DRW here, coming to you for the week of January 27th, your hot take over your commute, getting you ready for the week ahead with a little summary of what happened last week. I just finished a nice bowl of warm bat soup myself. It was delicious, a little intimidating to be looking at the little critter back at me. Yeah, a little intimidating, but kind of warm. A little fruit bat flavoring makes it taste more like chicken. No, that is not actually what I did, but it does kick us off on a flight around the world to the epicenter of what can only be described as a worldwide black plague-like epidemic coming to take everyone you know, hide your children, hide your families, lock yourself in, shut down your life, stop ordering on Amazon, get on Netflix, and just hunker down for the zombie apocalypse. Because if you have been reading any of the news over the last week, that is what sounds like is coming to America, coming to every country around the world. Terrifying, horrible, but is it really? I mean, I gotta ask some questions here, and this could be the worst aging episode of the Hot Take of the Day podcast ever. So I'm going to take the risk on that one and just ask a couple questions. Now, let's start with the fact that the CDC, the Center for Disease Control in the United States, said that in the winter of 2017, 80,000 Americans died from the influenza virus, which you might not recognize as just the flu. We get flu shots. Some of us do. I don't get it. I've never got it. At some point I probably should, but I just never have. And I didn't realize myself that 80,000 Americans died in the winter of 2017. Now, winter is a 90-day event, not this year. It's about a 4-day event this year. But let's just assume that winter is a 90-day event. And if you take 90 days, 80,000 people, that is 889 people a day. In the United States, we're dying from the flu. The coronavirus, as they like to call it, is really going to change my view of drinking Corona, I think, go forward. I don't love Corona, but now that I have the coronavirus on my mind, I think I'm going to move like full board of Pacifico or Dos Equis when I'm in Mexico. But nonetheless, the coronavirus was the first case, I think, was reported, I want to say, December 31st. And it's now, as of this recording, it's January 25th. And 41 people in the world have died. 1,300 have been infected. Now, I'm no mathematician. I did write a book that was number one in economics for a while, improperly categorized nonetheless. But I think this math's pretty easy to do. 41 people over kind of 25 days is 2 people a day. And that's not good. It's definitely not good. You never want people dying of illness or really of anything. But during that same time that 41 people died of the coronavirus in China and 1,300 been infected, at the same run rate of the influenza virus in 2017, we would have almost 20,000 Americans died from it. And that is a legit number. Here's another little known fact. Everyone dies. Little morbid, I agree, but as I understand it, most of the 41 who died were already in the hospital with some other complicating conditions. I think influenza, as an example, the Norwalk virus, if I have that name right, as another example, are examples of viruses that attack weak immune systems, older people, when they already have other medical issues. And so, we will see where this goes. But to me, oil started the week, felt good, Did the American Association of Drilling Engineers apologize? I did drop more F-bombs, but when I get passionate, I had a little bit more F-bombs than I would have liked. But starting at that and then ending the week with the Atom presentation down in Houston, every day oil was falling $1.50, $2. And if you were an equity holder, which you guys know that I am equity holders in 3 E&P companies, you got your face absolutely ripped off as oil moved down to $54 a barrel. That is crazy. That is just some crazy, crazy volatility in the market based on 41 people in China dying. So I wanted to look at the numbers. We're going to talk a little bit about the numbers today, which is that there are 1.368 billion people in China, and the city of Wuhan, the epicenter of this just disastrous epidemic plague that's coming to get you, is 11 million people. So 1%, less than 1% of the population of China lives in Wuhan, which is shut down. Now, 13.5 million barrels a day of oil are consumed in China, and 1% would be 135,000 barrels. Now, the world does 100 million barrels a day, 135,000 barrels a day. Even if you were to shut down that entire city, have everybody just stay in their house, not drive, not go anywhere, not do anything. I mean, Libya is down 1.3 million barrels a day right now. Is global demand really going to drop by the amount that the price projects that it is? Are we so awash with oil that a 1.3 million barrel Libyan disruption is not a big deal? The assassination of a Iranian general with a missile in January is not a big deal, but a pandemic that kills 41 people in 25 days is like threatening global GDP. I don't see it. I really don't. So to me, I am an oil bull. So I guess I'm talking my book a little bit. But to me, I just don't see oil should trade at $54 a barrel. And if it stays at $54 a barrel for really any period of time as we head into Q4 reporting, companies you just can't be completing wells at $54 a barrel. And, maybe it accelerates the declines that we're already seeing. North Dakota, it's been like minus 30, cold. Not a lot of guys complete when it's minus 30 and you have to waste money heating frack water. Oklahoma, we're down 60% in rigs. Completions are just off the map. You got to expect North Dakota and Oklahoma are going to see declines, and add to that lower levels of activity because of $54 a barrel oil. It is going to be an interesting February, but it's not going to be as interesting for the oil players as it is going to be for the gas players, because gas is now below $1.90 an MCF. And, we had Chris Callan on the podcast earlier in the month, and he has a bull case for long-term natural gas ownership. I agree with that. Long-term coal to gas switching and more power generation. As we know, 25% of the electricity in the United States is still generated from coal. So it makes sense that we would have natural gas continuing to grow as a demand. But we are awash, just awash in natural gas in the United States right now. 110 BCF a day produced, and gas is currently $1.80. There is not a gas well in the United States, in my opinion, and I think it's fact. If I am wrong, please send me an email. I will have you on the podcast, and you can walk me through the math. But at sub $2 an MCF, there is zero gas wells in the United States that make sense to be drilling. And that being the case, why are we completing wells? Why are we drilling wells? Well, I'll tell you. It's called firm transportation. I don't want to pick on EQT. I don't really follow EQT that closely, but I use it as a good example as a massive gas player in the United States. They produce 4.5 BCF a day, which is about 1.5 TCF a year. And when they came out in October to talk about their 2020 expectations, they said, we're going to keep production flat. Flat is the new up. Everyone's going to like us. Capital's coming down $500 million. We're only going to spend like 1.3 or something like $1.3 billion. It's going to be amazing. You guys should be excited. But when you think about that, they're still spending over $1 billion drilling wells that every single well is uneconomic. That doesn't make logical sense. So when you read through their annual report, you see, there's also 4.5 BCF a day of firm transportation that they have. So the firm transportation here is also 1.5 TCF. So if you let your production decline and just stop drilling wells, regardless of debt to EBITDA levels and debt covenants and all the issues that come along with that, because at $1.80, come on, your cash flow is already, last year I think it averaged $2.60. Your cash flow unhedged is already 25% lower. So debt holders are already like holding their hat and quite worried. And we'll talk about that in the case of Lilis here in a second. But it's just this firm transport is forcing gas producers who were so confident that they could grow forever, going back to 2010 when there were no pipelines in the Appalachia region. They just keep hammering away with new production. They keep backfilling their declines, and every single MCF that's created that we grow production is driving gas prices down. And behaviors, just the economic behaviors of firm transport, are causing an even greater issue. In the Permian, you have 50 cents an MCF. That's below the level of transportation, compression, treating, filtering, all of that stuff. So guys are losing money on every MCF produced. That is going to show in February. And I think, stocks are down. Mid-cap stocks are down 20% in the last kind of 2 weeks, really reflecting this just horrific gas price. So will be interesting to see the commentation of all the gas producers, certainly in the Marcellus area coming into Q4, and then Permian guys that maybe are drilling a little bit gassier wells. So that's oil, that's gas, that's the coronavirus. Let's finish this week with Lilis Energy, who is the first to report a borrowing base redetermination that created a liquidity crisis. So the company had disclosed that they had $115 million drawn against their borrowing base. And when they did their fall redetermination, it was lowered to $90 million, which meant that they were overdrawn by $25 million. And this is the crisis of balance sheets we talk about. We talked about Lilis last week, $292 million of smog value, $422 million of debt plus pref. And now their borrowing base, which is a short-term debt structure, they've overdrawn, and their bank wants $25 million within the next, I believe, 45 days, and the first payment was scheduled to occur January 24th. Now, companies don't even have the positive cash flow to pay their bills, much less pay banks back $25 million when you're that levered. So just as a thing to notice, not only was there a take under offer from their primary sponsor Varde last week at 25 cents a share because they had a liquidity crisis, this then was taken one step further this week with a borrowing base redetermination that has enhanced. So they have to sell assets. I mean, they've said, in their press release, the company's engaged in active discussions with its bank lenders and is currently considering various transactions to fund the borrowing base deficiency. They're not the only guys that are in this situation. And as we move ahead to February and as more announcements come out with Q4, borrowing base, smog determinations, it could be ugly. It really could be ugly. So lots to talk about coming forward, but that ends our episode for this week. I hope it was not as scary as the coronavirus, and I hope to be able to come to you later this week from Austin, where I will be interviewing Todd Brooker, who is with Collie Gillespie, and we're going to be talking about reserves. SEC reserves, a little bit more smog, but primarily, what are the rules? How do you book them? What do they mean? How do you read them? Going to be a great episode. Really excited about that. So until next time, you can follow us on the web at www.hottakeoftheday.com. You can check out our whole podcasts and be good, be safe, have a great week, and I'll be back. Bye for now.